Season 1, Episode 13. This week on Rebel Rebel, I get a chance to sit down with Rebel Dave Burns and talk about his calling and passion, the Introverted Networker. As an introvert himself, Dave has spent the time and energy to not only learn how to network, but to share with other introverts how they can be successful in uncomfortable environments. He drops truth about social media, digital networking, how to best leverage LinkedIn, what it means to be a trusted advisor, the art and science of being on brand, and what is the difference between soccer, rugby, and Aussie Rules Football. I'm your host, Michael Dean Dargy, Season 1, Episode 13, Dave, the Introverted Networker, on Rebel Rebel. Well, I'm sitting here in the Kensington studio of the Rebel Rebel podcast, and with me today is Dave Burns from the Introverted Networker. Hey, Dave.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We've also got on our table here a little Fitzsimmons beer called the Big Hill Blonde. I just want to thank them for supplying that as well. Dave, you've got this website. It's the introvertednetworker.com, right? And you do a lot of talks. You do a lot of coaching even for people like me that are introverted and socially awkward to make their way in the world. How do you do that? How did you come to that?
Yeah, well, the way I came to that was sucking at networking for 20 years. Maybe only 15, but pretty much all of my corporate career.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure it out. Really felt networking. I felt like a used car salesman. I had a really negative view of what networking was. I felt like it was asking for favors, especially with people I didn't really know.
Yeah, sure.
So the whole career-based networking advice, it really threw me. So first of all, I was really bad at it.
Yeah.
And then that really led me to go, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like I can't do this.
Right.
Like what's broken? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So my first career was in journalism, and I really struggled to get the opportunities.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a good toolkit. Yeah. I was a good writer and everything, so it wasn't necessarily my skills or experience, but I was really struggling to get either a start or moving up to the next level.
Yeah.
And I just ignored networking. I just fired off applications. This is back in the end of the 90s, early 2000s, when emailing was applications
right.
was really first the big thing. When I came over to Canada, a second career in communications in oil and gas, found the same pattern.
So did you know that you're an introvert, or did you just you said earlier that you just felt like you were broken, and I know this feeling really well, intimately, as a matter of fact. But how did you figure out that you're introverted?
Took until Susan Cain got her TED talk, really. I just thought I was shy, and then talking to it depends who you talk to. Yeah. Things like social anxiety. I like going out, and being out with people, and having a delicious beer like we've got here.
Yeah.
But talking to new people, meeting strangers, and things like that was a problem, and I just thought again, something wrong with me. So until the whole introvert TED talk and everything with Susan Cain came out, I don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta, you listen to some people. Oh, you just got to do it more. Talk to more people. Force yourself to do it. There wasn't really the knowledge around it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really until then, but still at that point, that's like, cool. I'm an introvert.
Yeah. Now what?
What do I do about it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if there's a pivotal moment, but it seems to me that as an introvert, coming up with being that passionate of knowing that you've got this struggle, because it is a struggle in big social situations, to come up with a plan, to come up with a way to help other people like you. I mean, that's super inspiring. I was at an event recently, and I sat in a corner, and it was chaos and mayhem. And fortunately, people drifted in and drifted out of my corner, so I could actually interact with them.
Yeah.
But man, I need what you got, because my networking sucks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's been a lot trial and error, but the coming up with the whole introverted networker piece wasn't really until last summer is when I decided to give it a try. Some flags had been popping up on my radar because I'd basically moved from sort of communications, stakeholder relations in oil and gas, left that in 2014, and people had started to ask me about helping them with their LinkedIn because I'd really been working on that because it was kind of like an introverted networking tool. I didn't have to go out and
so true,
and go to those corporate events where I don't know anybody and stand there awkward as hell. So LinkedIn was a way that I really took to it. I said, this is something that suits how I want to meet the right people, people like me or people that can help me or I can help them. So it started more with helping people with LinkedIn, writing profiles, and then as I wrote people's profiles, I also realized no one's looking at their profiles because they're not doing anything. Right. So then it moved more into how can I get people active on LinkedIn, reaching out to people, posting things, that kind of thing has really been a second part of it. And then, a couple of years ago, I got to the point where talking to more introverted people, I started to notice some patterns, and I'd kind of gone back into the whole introvert thing and strengths and stuff, partly for my own benefit, but it was a completely unrelated event that started me deciding, because it was a bit of a jump really to go from I'm a LinkedIn guy, I can help 100% of people,
right, to
go whatever the statistic is, 30%, 40%, 50%, depending on whether you count people in the middle, ambiverts that are a bit each way, because it's obviously a sliding scale.
Sure.
It's not a perfect term. So I had to make the business decision, am I going to start branding myself to only a certain amount of the audience?
Right, niche down.
Yeah, but I give that advice to everybody, stop trying to appeal to everybody, so I had to make the jump. But the original thing was I was doing a talk, and I'd done it a couple of times before, where I'd put a paper bag over my head and said, this is what you look like without a photo on LinkedIn.
Right.
Who would connect with you.
I love that, by the way. That's a great brand.
Yeah, and I don't even know where it first came from, but I found a picture of a person with a paper bag on their head, and then it was showing it on the screen, and then I said, why wouldn't I actually stick a paper bag on my head to really nail it home? Like, would you stand in a room like this was kind of my spiel. And I was doing a quick talk at the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, where I'd done a course, and I put the bag on my head and got some laughs and everything, but it was basically a 5-minute talk, and you had to give everything you had, so take an hour's worth of content and just smash it out.
Yeah.
And all my feedback was about the damn paper bag and not about anything I said. Everyone just, getting all this feedback. It's like, oh, do the bag more. Keep the bag on your head. I'm like, okay, bit of an ego hit, but people started to also associate that with the introvert part, just because they got to know me as part of the association. So it started to percolate, and I spent last summer just at networking events and things like that, just talking to people that a lot of them that I already knew that were a bit on the quieter side, and I started talking about that. Like, is this a struggle? Like the networking part, especially business owners. Especially if you're a small business owner and you're your only employee, you don't have a salesperson.
Yeah, that's tough.
You got to do it whether you like it or not. And I gravitate to the other awkward people at networking events.
Just hang out. Yeah, there's I saw your picture because I think it's on LinkedIn, where you've got the bag on your head.
Yep.
And I was thinking to myself immediately that's kind of like an introvert. I feel like putting a bag on my head and just sort of sinking back. I didn't really put it to this is what it's like without a picture on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like there's some two different things. Yeah,
I mean that's where it started. It was just an example, and so I fell into some good branding in the end. Because,
happy accident.
Yeah, and just listening to people. Like enough people said, stick a bag on your head that I went, you know what, there's something to this. I should listen to them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there is that feeling as well, though. I feel like, especially when you're in those huge rooms of people, you do just stick a bag on your head or hide behind a plant or something like that.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. We had a big family thing here. We're in the Kensington studios, my house in Kensington, oddly enough, and it's a small, like 1904 house, and it was filled with like 10, 12 people. A lot of people for a small little house like this, and I pretty much spent most of my time in the kitchen. Like, just, I'd cook, I'd do some stuff, I'd bring out some things, I'd, dodge in for like a minute or two and then dodge back out. And it got to a point where my partner said, what's going on? And I'm just like, so actually in front of everyone, I'm just like, I've got social anxiety. I can't manage the energy of all these people. So I've got to do it on my pace, my terms. And they're just like, oh, that makes total sense. And, suddenly I felt a lot better about, spending time by myself to recharge, re-energize, be able to come back in. Is that something that's common? Yeah, I mean, and I should say I will not claim to have any sort of psychological education or anything like that, because I'm focusing on one area, like the networking in regards to whether you're in sales or business, or whether the job search piece to networking. So that's where I'm helping introverts. Anything else I give outside of that, I'm obviously not going to try and compete with Susan Cain and her zillions of books that she's sold and things like that. And that was probably part of the hesitation to actually go over to focusing on introverts, was, do I want to be competing with these kinds of people? But really, at the end of the day, I'm just using and finding more strategies that work for people similar to myself. So what sort of strategies would those be? I mean, I talked about a social situation, not a networking event where I need to make connections to people. What are your top 3 tips that would help a guy like me to, make those connections that I need in a place where I'm uncomfortable? Yeah, well, I mean, there's 2 things. I guess there's recognizing and managing some of the let's call them deficits in that social situation, some disadvantages that introverts have. So if you can recognize your social anxiety, then you can deal with it. If you can recognize you just want to hang out in the kitchen because only 3 people can fit in there, and you only want to have the small group interaction, or you just have the one-on-ones. And I can tell you, I noticed that behavior in my 30s, that I always found myself at parties realizing I hadn't talked to a bunch of people and I hadn't met that many new people, because I would get into conversations for 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, and usually people would come in, leave. I love that. The extroverts would float in for a while and leave, whereas probably the other introvert, we'd hang out. So I noticed that in a social sense. And you're not, and the advice is not to be doing that at a business networking setup, because you're meant to fling cards everywhere and that kind of bad advice that's outdated, and there's a lot of advice that says that's not going to work for you. So I mean, as far as that, I recognize if I try to talk to 30 people at a networking event, it's not going to work for me. So I really try to walk out of a networking event having made one really strong connection. And my goal necessarily isn't to talk to a certain amount of people. It's can I help one person at a networking event? So can I give some sort of value? That might be as basic as just listening to what they do and asking good questions and things like that. But as someone who's calling himself the introverted networker, generally, is there a connection I can make once I've understood what it is they need help with? Like everybody's going to a networking event with some sort of goal. So I mean, that's the thing. So, let's call it the first tip. I would say, cut yourself some slack at a networking event. Nice. Yeah. Thanks. And pick
pick something that's easy. And I like to take the pressure off myself, or help people take the pressure off and go, just focus on the other person.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't answer a question or anything like that. But everybody wants to be heard and listened to, and you'll find that if you have a conversation where I'm asking all the questions and you talk for 30 minutes, you'll probably go away going, what a great conversationalist that guy was.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to tell all your stories and you felt understood, that kind of thing. But I mean, definitely cut yourself some slack and understand how you function.
Yeah. I am so inspired by that, because that suddenly takes all the pressure off. If I walk into an event now, if I take that piece of advice and go, I just have to come away with one deep, meaningful connection, and I need to help one person. I can do that. That's easy to do. I mean, I think that works for me. Instead of I've got to meet 30 people, I got to make 18 meaningful connections, I got to get one sale in the pipeline, blah blah blah. That's not me at all. And I should mention really quickly, we do have construction going next door. So as part of the ongoing Rebel podcast, we've got a house going up next door, and it's a little noisy, but you shouldn't hear too much of it on here. What is the second tip that you would give somebody like me in a networking event?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna stick on events, then another thing about looking at the strengths of introverts, because a lot of what I'm trying to do is, I found that all the networking advice was aimed at extroverts,
right?
And we didn't, largely because we didn't know extrovert, introvert. Only guys in lab coats were talking about these kinds of things, that kind of thing. So if that advice was all aimed at extroverts, what's the opposite? So let's look at what are the strengths of introverts. So introverts, as we mentioned that first tip, we like to listen. Like to ask questions and listen, and we like to go deeper in a conversation. So that's obviously going to set you apart as well. But I mean, another thing is, introverts, we like to pretty good at research, or we're pretty good at attention to detail. So is there a way at an event you can do the research beforehand? Because you're not going to go around and talk to every single person in that room and find out what they do. Right. So those are really bad odds to find that one person in the room that might be able to help you, or you can help them.
Sure, yeah.
And if you're talking about whether it's a job opportunity or whether it's from a sales perspective, those are bad odds. Yeah, the guy that can walk around in 30 seconds, bang, 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 around the room. Yeah. That person's gonna meet the right person in the room
eventually.
Although they might just skip straight past them. I don't know.
Yeah.
So is there any way you can research the crowd beforehand, so you can spend that 1 or 2 or 3 conversations that you're only going to have with the right person?
Oh, smart.
So a few different ways, it depends on the event. If it was something like a meetup, I liked meetup when it was sort of in its heyday, because you could actually see who's going to go.
Right.
It's a little bit more difficult than some other ones, but is there a way to talk to the event organizer to get an understanding of who's going to be there?
Oh, yeah, good.
A really good way to do that is be the event organizer.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes to a little bit about what we're talking about before we started recording, about you're hosting an event at the Big Four.
At the Big Four, yeah.
And even though it sounds really weird for an introvert to be the guy or the gal, like the organizer, you don't have to meet people when you run things. People come to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's not like introverts don't like talking to people and don't like people.
Yeah.
There's a certain max before we need that recharge. But it's also, some people, it can just be that social anxiety of actually just going up and talking to people. So the best cheat I can give you is be the guy.
Be the guy, yeah.
Yeah. And I it wasn't until fairly recently that I've looked back in places where I did feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm a rugby guy since 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's been a club that I've been at where I haven't become the social coordinator at some stage.
Really?
I like organizing things,
Yeah.
partly because I want the event to be fun,
Yeah.
kind of things I want to do. But it was really weird. Like rugby has been my bubble and my safe zone. I probably act somewhat extroverted in rugby circles because it's my safe place. And when I really started to realize it, coming towards career number 2, I'm like, why am I like this over here? But you put me in a meeting in oil and gas or a networking event, and I don't say anything.
Yeah.
Where's the difference? So how can you create that comfort? So if you're running the event, for example, but anyway, even if you're not going to do that, how can you find those people? Like previously, if you can get a look at the guest list, especially if it was a fairly small, specific kind of networking event. All right, well, can you go pump all those names into LinkedIn and see which people you'd like to talk to?
Yeah, right.
And that's win-win.
Yeah,
you're going to be able to talk to someone that you might be able to give some value to.
Yeah.
But you're also making the best use of your time.
Absolutely.
As well. So,
yeah, that's great. What a great tip. Yeah. So you had mentioned, just sort of leading into this one, that it's not just. I'm going to infer that you meant it's not just about events. So there's other things. There's maybe another tip for being an introverted networker that has nothing to do with events. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you look at what we've got with the internet and social media, and everything coming out these days, there's such an ability to again tailor things to your preferences and your characteristics and your energy levels. So whether it's a social media platform or if it's some sort of online community. So we met through a Facebook business group, and that's been a great group for me to get to know people a little bit. I'll go to when they have an event. Yeah. I'll go there, but I'll mainly be finding the people that I haven't met in person yet. That I've had some sort of conversation where everyone's posting things about the entrepreneurial journey, whether it's asking about some problem that they're having, whether it's coming up with something new in their businesses as our businesses grow. Yeah. People chime in. Obviously I want to go talk to that person, say thanks if they gave me some advice or put a face to the name. But the digital, let's call it digital networking, which is a term I haven't seen around too much, but it's one that's been bouncing around in my head. Yeah. Yeah. And I want to qualify that with my overall theme is I'm not trying to empower introverts to hide in their basement and never see a person face to face again. Yeah. And a lot of what I try to do on LinkedIn is get people off LinkedIn to a conversation either on the phone or in person in as few steps as possible. So I'm not talking about let's become hermits and never see people in person, but there are a lot of options out there, whether it's groups on a social media like Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, things like Reddit, I think even Quora, which is just a question and answer platform. It does have a community within that as well.
I've started dipping toes in Quora. I find it fascinating, but I'm you read some of the questions and you have an answer, but then you read through the answer just like it's covered. Moving on to the next one.
That's a very introverted way to answer a question. Take 5 minutes to read through it and check that someone hasn't already said it before. That was kind of my attitude in meetings. Like, well, that's obvious. Why would anyone answer that question? Right. Someone else would answer it, and I go, oh, crap. It's 55 minutes into a 60-minute meeting, I haven't said anything. Yeah, damn it. Say something obvious. So,
right. So that'll be tip number 4.
No, that was... and that whole, like, workplace piece is covered elsewhere pretty well. And, because a lot of the focus has actually been more on how can managers and leaders recognize introverts and get the best out of them. So that's where it's been more so, is kind of teaching or opening the eyes of leadership on how to how to recognize their introverts and get the best out of them.
Yeah.
It hasn't actually been too much of the bottom up. How can introverts, whether it's move their career forward or how can they run their business better, those kinds of things. So I'm more sort of talking to the rank and file.
Yeah, cool.
People. I'd be training the sales staff, not the VP and the sales manager on how to manage people. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options digitally.
Yeah.
But if you're doing anything to do with anything with people with white collar jobs, LinkedIn's a great place to start because you can find them. I've used kind of coined the term that LinkedIn is Google for professionals.
Yeah, totally.
So if that's in a career, how can you find a bunch of people that might be able to hire you one day or mentor you or know or be in the right company that might give you that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's not, I've always had networking was the image in my head was always that guy on Stephen Avenue that was hosting like in the pub, hosting lunches, like buying the beers for everybody and knew everybody.
Yeah.
And I definitely had a point where I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'll never be that guy.
Yeah.
I'll just have a crap career.
Yeah.
I just won't get the opportunities. There would always be that guy got a new job and you're like, oh, how'd you get it? And like, oh, yeah, I'm a buddy such and such. We were having lunch and he mentioned it. So, like job was never advertised. Like it just, they made the job for him. And I'm like, I am never going to be that guy because I'm not, unless it's, my circle of 20, my really close friends or, my rugby community was where that kind of stuff happens because it's a very tight community that really looks after each other. Yeah. But, if you're not that person out, in the real world, how can you do that on a place like LinkedIn, or how can you fill your network full of those people that can help you? Most people are happy to help you, they just don't know. It's amazing how little even your friends know about your own career.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So working that your circle of friends and talking to them too is key as well.
Yeah, well, I found it myself. So I left corporate land September 2014. I got out like a month or two before the crash, not on purpose. It was completely other reasons why I wanted to do something different.
Good for you.
Well, I don't know if I just saved the company some money by getting out early without a package, who knows? But come Christmas time, I'm going for drinks with my rugby club, and I would say out of 50 guys, probably 3 people knew that I'd actually left my oil company. And I'm like, impossible. I've been on LinkedIn posting all this stuff about business and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got to remember that wise advice that, when you're worried about what people think about you, they're too busy worrying about themselves.
Yeah, right.
So, and I've found this over and over when friends have moved on for a position or, with all the, retrenchments, a lot of people getting let go. People don't know because not a lot of people post, hey, just got let go from my job. Right. Because it's not a really great advertisement going, just screaming from the treetops, hey, I just got fired or I just got let go. But, one of my first questions is, all right, well, how are you going to let people know that you're looking? Right. And they go, oh, I'm like, not everybody's just going to know. Right. Yeah, because that is a huge thing, especially if it was being let go from a company as opposed to moving on your own terms. Right. It's a huge thing, like emotionally and everything. So it's the center of your universe. Right. But do other people know so they can actually keep an eye out, help? So
right. So how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you get the word out the best way possible?
Yeah, I mean, one example. So I kind of went through that where it was from a business perspective, but I was like, oh wow, so my 50 core people from my rugby community didn't even know I'd started my own business. Like 3 people did. Oh. So I'd been shown this marketing email that some guy had set out. It was actually like a cold email, just sent out to people. And I'm the opposite of cold calling. I got a colleague in the speakers community who's a sales trainer, and he loves cold calling, and he's still about it. And when I've spoken at the association and I'll say something against cold calling, he'll yell out at me, and we have a bit of back and forth. But I'm not that guy. I know it puts a feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
The thought of picking up a phone and calling a stranger and trying to drum up business from that. I want to reduce the odds. I want to find the people that are actually predisposed. I don't like rejection. I know it's part of the deal.
Right.
But why not maximize the chances by only talking to people that have something where they would say yes?
Yeah. Sure. Well, that's smart.
Yeah. So this email letter, it was basically like a Happy New Year. You know how people on a personal side will send out here's the year in review, or here's what I'm up to, and here's the family. So it was a marketing letter, and it was basically just talking about this guy was offering some different services. He was a marketing copywriter.
Yeah.
And a friend had been sent this, and he showed me it, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I did that on LinkedIn, and I only sent it to people that I had a real relationship with. So I sent it to just over 100 people, and I basically said, hey, I want to let you know, what I'm doing, because there's been some changes.
Yeah.
I also want to know what's going on with you, from the fact that I'm, in case I can help you or someone you know, because that Christmas period some people had said, oh, wow, I could have used you 6 months ago.
Oh, damn it.
It happened. Oh, it happened. But when I sent out that, and it was a LinkedIn message, and I wrote it out 100 times. It was copy paste, but it depended on who they were.
Sure,
I personalized it and changed certain things depending on my relationship with them.
An introverted thing to do. Take time, make it personal.
Yeah, it wasn't hugely changed, but LinkedIn is the one social media platform that does not let you automate things. Doesn't let you. There are things out there,
appreciate that.
but they'll be gone 3 weeks later. There are some I kind of pay attention to this, but speaking of communities, I have a LinkedIn expert community on Google Plus of all things. I don't know why it's on there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't use Google Plus for anything.
Me neither. Who
apart
does?
from this one group that's
Sorry,
set
Google.
up. But it's people from around the world, so it's pretty useful to chat about changes and things like that, and complain about things and stuff. But anyway, sending out this message. Didn't want to use an automation tool and just go blah to my whole network, because I don't have the relationship or the right to send that to 1,000 people.
And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because so many people actually do that, and they're just like, yep, cool, done, smoke, and and I hate it, and I will unfriend, unfollow, all that stuff as soon as I see that.
Yeah, I write back to them.
Yeah. Well, if it's a good friend.
Oh no, I mean the opposite.
Oh yeah.
People that don't know me, like when I click connect yes on a connection request on LinkedIn, and they try to sell me something, I write back and kind of mock them. Like,
oh, good for you.
You're not in a nasty way, but I'm like, oh, how do we know each other?
Right.
And or especially when someone tries to sell me marketing or LinkedIn services, and I'm just like, whoa. And
do you know who I am?
It happened to me a month ago too. It's someone that I've met before in person.
Really?
Yeah. So obviously they're using an automated tool to send that, and I wrote back and said, hey, we've actually met personally 3 times. Plus, I think my LinkedIn stuff's pretty good. No response, obviously. But yeah, I kind of like to tease people when they're it's almost they're so dismissive of personalizing it just enough. Like those automation tools can actually make it look like you've actually done your research.
Right, because you can mail merge some of the content information.
You can get some information out at least to segment people. So when someone is really just like, hey, buy my crap.
Yeah.
Immediately. Yeah. I'll usually just kind of lightly mock them, just like, do you know me, or did you look at my profile? Because it's really not a fit. It's really not a fit. So yeah. So I mean, the opposite of that, getting back to the example of letting people know what's going on and activating that letter that I sent. It largely said, hey, so I was out at Christmas and I realized how few people actually know what I'm doing, and people have said I could have used your help, or I knew a friend. So I want to let everybody know what I'm doing in case I can help someone.
Yeah, nice.
And from that message, I probably got, again, about another 10 people that said, could have used you 6 months ago.
That stings a little bit. There you go.
I got probably about 6 firm leads where it either led directly to business or the conversation took a while or things changed, but people that immediately wanted to have a serious chat about it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people just said, I will keep an ear out and I'll let people know.
Yeah.
Because, and it was sort of the way that I phrased it as well. Just people went, hey, like such and such could have used that 6 months ago. Now I know.
Yeah.
When someone says blah blah blah, Dave can help them. And that's a really important part about branding yourself professionally.
Right.
Is do people know when they're in a conversation that you're the actual answer to that problem? And for most people, it's a no.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Personal branding and professional branding is really difficult because you got to look at yourself.
Yeah, when it's got to fit, right? And I think your point to people sending you stuff that's not a fit is irresponsible on their part, and it's and if it's you doing that, or if it's you going out into the world, it has to be a fit with your personality and your personal brand. It's got to be in alignment, otherwise it's untrue and people see through it right away.
Yeah, you know what? If you're comfortable running the numbers game and connecting with 1,000 people each week and sending them a cold email, and that's how you want to function, good for you.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't want to get up in the morning and do that.
No. But to your point, some people maybe do. That's their modus operandi, and that's the
and it's kind of the
differences.
It's kind of the same as the sort of the old school of thought on cold calling. I've got to make 100 calls a day.
Right.
The
Harvey McKay method.
Yeah, anyone under 30 won't understand the reference to the yellow pages probably or the white pages, but just opening that up and going through A or whatever.
Yeah.
You can do that now with tools, with things like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter and all those kinds of things. You can do that. And if you want to run the numbers game, cool.
Yeah.
But it's not the way. I would rather spend more time researching people and talking to a smaller amount that are much more likely to say either yes or have a real real conversation rather than just the shotgun method of marketing. So back to that example of that letter, whether it's looking for a job or maybe you've changed something in your business or maybe just people don't know what you're doing. You can send that out to people that you have a real relationship with and just let them know and just state.
So let me ask a pointed question. Do you do this primarily for individuals, the introverted networker, or do you do it for businesses, like groups and businesses? Like, what's your if I was looking to help you engage your audience, what would that audience look like?
Absolutely. Yeah, so primarily it's been a lot of one-on-one work, and it's been more business owners than anything else to this point. I work with job seekers as well. Yeah. There's a bit of an irony around the whole job seeker market, and they don't need people like me until they don't have a job.
Right.
And when people don't have a job, they don't really feel like they have money to spend on an expert. So it's a bit of a vicious circle there. And the money from programs in anywhere really, but in Calgary, for example, it's a pretty small pool. Yeah. There's a lot of people volunteering their time, and I get a lot of requests to come speak for free.
Yeah.
And the thing is I have part of my income is speaking professionally.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving it away for free over here, and then I walk over to someone and say this will be X amount of dollars,
right?
That's not a authentic or honest way to be doing business. So I do have some time that I set aside to speak at organizations that are not for profit.
And I think that's great because it's like a pro bono thing. It's like you're a lawyer. You need to do some sort of pro bono stuff And it's not, I don't think it would be self-serving on your part to go and do that, but it's a giving back thing. But then, other people should pay. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, so to go through sort of what I'm talking about, I work with a lot of individuals originally.
Yeah. Where
I'm starting to move to is more either the training or the keynote speaking to kind of hit more people. The training part is largely because I need to work hands-on with people. A lot of people will, do a LinkedIn profile, for example, and then, brush their hands and go, done.
Yeah.
And stand back and await the flood of people. But unless you're in a specific job or a sales position or a business where people are actively looking for you, that's not going to happen. The second part is actually getting out there and letting people know about you. And it doesn't have to be self-serving. It doesn't have to be just kind of vomiting all over social media about what you do or screaming buy my stuff, which is what I see a lot of, especially a lot of smaller businesses or tech businesses. It's still that buy my stuff, buy my stuff.
Instead of giving to get.
Well, yeah, I mean, really about social media, people get onto social media, they're either looking to connect with people or to learn something, especially when we're talking about from more of a business or a professional side.
Yeah.
They're getting on there to learn something. So if you're just yelling buy my stuff, or you go, hey, here's a link to my website, read my sales page.
Right.
What value is that person getting in that situation?
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
The things have changed radically. Sales is different. Marketing is different. You have to provide. People have an expectation because of the internet. Yeah. You are going to provide some value for free.
Yeah.
And that will allow you to become. The term I like to use is kind of a trusted guide.
Right.
Like the best thing about the internet is there's all this information that everybody can access.
Yeah, and they can vet it.
Yeah.
And find if it's a fit for them.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing about the internet is there's all this information out there. Right. So, where I kind of see where sales people are going, especially in the business to business area, is can you be the trusted guide to help people sort through that information?
Yeah.
And then if you build that trust and that credibility with them, they're likely to come work with you.
Right.
Or at least talk about you, direct people to you. And especially as an introvert, I'm damn happy if I get some people that are sending people my way and talking about that, and I don't have to be out there selling. So building that trust with putting value across.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, salesperson, or a job seeker.
Yeah.
And job seekers can absolutely post and provide value and show that they know about their industry.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just have to be the latest East versus West oil rant.
Yeah.
How can you share articles or resources that someone in your industry, specifically someone who could hire you or tell you when there's a job going internally, how can you share some information that's going to benefit them? And that just positions you as someone who knows what they're talking about or knows where to get information. They know about your industry and your role, but it goes across all things, and that's the big change. Is it was okay to just say buy my stuff back in the old days because no one had information. Salespeople had all the info,
right? Yeah,
unless you were somehow in an encyclopedia or something like that. Like there was a huge information gap.
Right.
You had to go to a salesperson to get educated on a product.
Right.
Now, everybody has read a bunch and they're educated by the time they contact a salesperson. Most of their research is done. Yeah. They already know about the company. They've probably researched the company. They've probably looked at your LinkedIn profile and checked you out and things like that. So that's a big shift. So anyone who's trying to communicate and market to people in any digital form, things have changed. The expectation has has changed. Now you need to provide information to build that trust and be the person they come to for that information.
Right.
You know, and obviously with all the fake news stuff and things like that, people, can you trust the information? Do you know where to go? Like it's really easy to make something that doesn't really stand up look like it does these days.
Yeah, for sure.
So
let me ask you a question. So of the social media platforms for business, I mean, obviously you're a big proponent of LinkedIn. What are you not a big proponent of? Like, what do you think is just the worst of the worst for a business person to be engaging on?
Well, I'll artfully dodge that question. I'll come back to it and talk about the platforms. I'm happy to. But I'll dodge that question by saying, go where your audience is.
Okay, cool. Good dodge.
And most people that I'm talking to, they're red in the face and they're sweating and they're like, like most people, when I tell them what I do and that I largely use LinkedIn, they apologize to me.
Oh.
They go, oh my God, I've got to update my LinkedIn profile. Or, oh my God, I should be using LinkedIn, but I don't. And I'm like, don't apologize to me, mate. I don't own it. Like there's no official affiliation between LinkedIn and I. They don't train trainers or anything like that. I think they're missing a revenue source. Yeah. Because there's hundreds of us out there, maybe thousands. I don't know. Yeah. But where is your audience? Yeah. And secondly, what is the mindset when they are on a platform? So a great example is I talk to people in retail occasionally, or business to customer, B2C, and they're like, my audience is on LinkedIn. I'm like, great, tell me a bit more. And they're like, well, I'm targeting, and the best example I've got is something to do with fitness. So it could be healthy shakes, healthy food. It could be boot camps,
sure.
Fitness, all this kind of stuff. And they go, I want to target, management level, 40-year-old man, in downtown Calgary. I'm like, okay. And they're like, LinkedIn's where it is. And I'm like, well, your audience is on there, but there's two problems. Nothing on LinkedIn allows them to flag themselves that they're interested in that. Whereas where you think about Facebook and the creepy amount of data it collects on you, you like a couple of different fitness things, whether it's a video or a page or whatever.
Right.
Apart from the creepy side of Facebook, that is good from the point of view that
you can now get to those people.
That people that can provide you with something that you might want can find you through that. LinkedIn has nothing that says I like to go walk by the Bow River at lunchtime because I'm trying to lose some pounds. So there's no way to find them is the first problem. And the second one is, what is a person's intent when they're on a platform?
Right.
If I see a thing about, protein shakes on LinkedIn, that is not what I'm on LinkedIn for. I'm there to either learn or connect with people that I want to be associated
learn
with.
Or share.
So I might go, that's cool.
Yeah.
Shiny object. I've gone on to something else.
Yeah.
So where is your audience?
Yeah.
And what's their intent? So to then take that back to the platforms. What platform are the people on? Personally, for me, LinkedIn's obviously number one.
Yeah.
YouTube is the second one because YouTube is the second biggest search engine on Earth.
Yep. How many subscribers do you have right now on your channel?
Terrible amount. It's reasonably new. I probably have like 30 subscribers.
It's hard building that audience on YouTube, I've found.
I there's nothing about kittens in my business, so it is hard to get a viral video. I've had, the most popular video I've had, and I think it's had 10,000 views.
Oh, that's respectable.
It's not too bad. It was about how to turn off the autoplay videos on LinkedIn when they first brought in the videos, and the setting was set to on, so videos would just run. So that was good to get eyes on that video, but it wasn't something that made people think, well, I should subscribe to this channel in case something else annoys me. Yeah, it was good to get views, but it wasn't necessarily one to subscribe. And really, the introvert side is only something that I'm starting to build content.
So would I search for Dave Burns in YouTube, or would I search for introverted networker?
Introverted networker would get you.
I'll throw your link in the description as well on the site and stuff like that, so people can check out the stuff you've got.
Yeah, it's one of those long YouTube ones. I'm not of the chosen few.
Yeah, and I think it's something I fight with quite a bit, because I've got a couple YouTube channels that I manage and deal with, and it's getting over 100. Once you have over 100, then you can name your own.
Yeah,
thing,
and everything got a lot tougher. What was it, like 3-4 months ago, when YouTube decided that the threshold was now
10,000 views to be able to monetize
a certain amount of hours, thousands of hours and things like that, which is fine.
Yeah, it's fair.
So anyway, I mean that's part of the thing as well. I was largely using YouTube for LinkedIn how-tos, and they're kind of the entry-level ones. Yeah. Again, whether you're talking about job seekers or business owners or those kinds of things, I'm not going to try and charge someone just to show them like where the home button is, or how to change their security settings so they don't get 100 emails every week about what's going on in LinkedIn and that kind of thing. So that's what I've been using it for. In the future I want to make it a little bit more topical, but cracking the code for what works on YouTube is super interesting. You can spend a lot of time on YouTube trying to learn about YouTube.
For sure. I found stuff that I've noticed in terms of just digital content, YouTube, podcasts, otherwise. Consistency is super important. It doesn't even matter if you're putting out shit regularly. It's actually consistently, like doing stuff so that the audience knows that it's happening, and the content keeps building.
Yeah. And that's a struggle for me. More on YouTube. I'm pretty consistent on LinkedIn, and I got my kind of template to work out what I'm going to do, but it's got to hit certain check marks.
Yeah.
Number one is like, what value does this actually give someone?
Yeah.
Keeping the self-promotional thing down to one self-promotional thing for every 8 sort of value adds and that kind of thing. But I struggle with that on YouTube, just to say produce content regularly, because I'm like, is this really giving value? And as you know, with running a podcast and all the other things you do, it's not. A 5-minute video doesn't take 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
Oh, God, as I started to learn.
Not even close.
Get to the end of the day, I'm like, wow, 15 minutes took me a day. Oh, God.
Oh, you're doing great. Oh, my God.
Well, I've made a couple of online courses, so with those ones, I'm like, oh, wow, I disappeared from the world for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's insane. The amount of effort that goes into video, even video that looks like it's guerrilla or like found footage kind of stuff, takes a tremendous amount of time to put together, edit, and make sure it sounds good and looks good and stuff.
But again, that all comes back to let's go back and touch on where is your audience. YouTube might not be it, or maybe YouTube is, but your audience doesn't need $10,000 production values. A lot of my stuff would be, in the past especially, it's just screenshots. It's like, here's LinkedIn.
Or you could do Camtasia.
Here's where you go. I use Camtasia, and most of it's just screenshots of like how to do this and where to go and that kind of thing. At this point in time, that worked, but really some people spend a hell of a lot of time or money, and does your audience need those production values? And that would go across all the platforms, and back to the original question, what platforms shouldn't you use or should you use? Go back to the audience. Like, I'm really surprised that Facebook groups at the moment is easily winning the battle of the platforms for where people want to go and form communities. And it was basically because the functionality is better. Like LinkedIn groups just had a huge fade out about 18 months ago. And a lot of it was because all the spammers realized how popular LinkedIn groups were, and all of a sudden there was just clickbait everywhere.
Oh, man.
And people, there weren't conversations anymore, and the functionality wasn't where it needed to be. Yeah. And LinkedIn dropped the ball in a few ways, and they are taking some steps to try to get things back, because it just makes sense. If I'm a B2B sales guy or a job seeker or whatever, LinkedIn makes a hell of a lot of sense. But it fell off a cliff, and LinkedIn's different than most social media platforms because it's run by the engineers. Yeah. So they're studying the numbers, and if a certain function on LinkedIn isn't getting used, they just stop.
They just get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, it sucks.
Oh, okay.
No, it's great. It's great for most people. It sucks for someone who specializes in LinkedIn because the things that people don't use are the secret weapons. They're the things I want to teach. So every time I got something going great, they take it away because no one else is using it. I'm like, that was my secret sauce. You took it all away from me.
Yeah, shaking your fist at the sky.
Yeah, but overall it works good. But like Facebook has got some good, so much variation in the groups they have on there. You can go and find professional groups, and so it doesn't matter what platform it is, even if you think, does that fit? Yeah, it is all about, are the people I want to have conversations with, are they there, and what are they doing on that platform? Because I've always found, especially when LinkedIn groups were big, I'd join a sales group on LinkedIn, and it was 500,000 salespeople trying to sell to other salespeople. It's like sharks swimming with sharks. So don't go where don't fish where the sharks are. Go over here, and the same thing. Like you go to a real estate group, and it's everybody trying to flog real estate investment to other real estate investments.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But then over here would be a group that was more niche down and specific, and it was basically talking about like mortgages or something like that, and just giving advice. And that's where you'd get those young couples come in and like ask questions or something like that. I was like, that is what a group is supposed to function like. Yeah. You go where people need your advice, you give it, and some will come back to you. Yeah. But I see so many groups where it's everyone just like, buy my crap, and I'm like, but I'm selling the same crap. Yeah. What do we do?
Yeah, it's just this big circle.
Yeah, and I always have that image, like sharks just like swimming with sharks, like buy my stuff. And
you want to buy my stuff? You want to buy my stuff? How about you buy my stuff?
Oh yeah. I got this. I always have this other image in my head, and there's this cartoonist, and I think she does focus on introvert stuff a bit, but she does like kind of business cartoons, and she's got this cartoon. It's like the old way of selling versus the new way of selling, and it's got this robot, and he's just programmed to go buy my stuff every time someone comes past, and that was kind of the old model. And again, going back to that fact that people were information poor, so they had to go to the buy my stuff robot to get that information. But people are still just doing that, buy my stuff, like they get onto Hootsuite or whatever, and they put in 5 days worth of content, and
5 days of buy my stuff.
Yeah, it's just a robot going buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And we need to move past that because the expectations are long past that, especially with the younger generations. It's like the whole what have you done for me lately?
And you've got, I'm holding my iPhone here, and you have the sum of human knowledge in your hand. Yeah. Really, I mean, there's no the information gap is non-existent at this point. I mean,
well, it's not a gap; it's an overload. Yeah, everyone's overloaded with information. Yeah. So one thing I try to do is, can I guide you through the information? It doesn't have to be all my information. Yeah. But awesome. I'm my income is based around knowing more about LinkedIn than 99% of people. So nice. Would you like me to cut through all the crap
and get you to the good stuff?
And here's some good stuff. Yeah. Here's the free stuff. If you want to, if you want to go further and get me to actually do the stuff for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I am. But let me help you because I've been where you are.
Yeah.
And I had to spend hundreds of hours and money, on coaches and things like that to get this awesome knowledge of what's useful and what's not.
Yeah.
So, sorting through it all is. But yeah, again, just to circle back to where we started. Look at the platforms, and you can Google stuff pretty easily about the demographics on a platform,
right,
of who's on there.
Yeah.
What are they doing, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Facebook is surprising that it's carved out some groups that you would think is more from the professional side, like the entrepreneur group that we're members of, those kinds of things. But there's a couple that there's this one that's got like 20,000 people, and it's called a growth hacking group. And normally words like growth hacking make me want to like go in the kitchen and talk to you at a party, not deal with anybody. But one of the guys he was kind of the guy that was one of the first people to start all those viral posts on LinkedIn where he got 1 million views and that kind of thing, that kind of storytelling trend that you've seen where people are writing in really short sentences and telling a story rather than sort of the old blocks of text.
Yeah. That you just can't digest.
Yeah,
anymore.
but I mean that's a Facebook group, but it's all about most of the other platforms and things like that. So yeah, you gotta go where they are, basically.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm going to totally throw a non sequitur at you.
Okay.
We're coming at it from a different direction. So I'm a football fan, like a soccer fan. You are a rugby fan.
Correct.
So 2 questions. I have heard, because I used to coach football a lot, and that rugby was a hooligan's game played by gentlemen, and that football was a gentleman's game played by hooligans.
Absolutely.
Discuss.
Yes. Well, I totally buy into that theory, even though the percentage of man buns would be much higher in soccer than it is in rugby. So you would think the hooligans
the latter
would not sport that. The big difference is, I got to tell you, I am not a soccer fan.
Yeah.
And I was dismissive of soccer because all I saw was the stuff on TV, the diving and like
it drives me nuts.
And the millions of dollars. Yeah, and I'm talking back in like the 2000s. So I became a sports reporter, and I'm a rugby guy, and I moved to a town that was Aussie Rules mad. So like 3 sports reporters were covering Aussie Rules and me. And my main beat was soccer. And it was actually a really big feeder to the Melbourne competition. So I was out in the country working at a large daily, so sort of what a Red Deer or a Lethbridge.
Yeah, okay.
Back when newspapers actually had staff.
Yeah.
Not one dude.
Not one guy covering the entire country.
Yeah. But yeah, I got given the soccer beat, and I'm like, man.
Who did I piss off?
Well, yeah, there weren't many options. Just rugby got one story, the before story, then the after story, kind of thing, and that was fine. It wasn't big in that area. I went out and started watching games, and I started when I had to interview people beforehand. Found really genuine people, but I went out there and I watched it, and these guys were working hard.
Yeah,
these weren't the guys with the man bun clutching at their knee when they got brushed on the shoulder and all that. I haven't paid attention to this World Cup.
It's been brilliant.
Yeah, but social media, every 4 years as a rugby guy, all these people that don't really give a crap about soccer will start posting all those memes about the diving and all that. Yeah. And a few people have tagged me or said, "Oh, did you see this?" Like, yeah, I saw that 4 World Cups ago.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, but we were emailing it to each other because we didn't have social media. I know about the diving and stuff, but I know that the people under those levels, they play hard, and they're good. They're good people and stuff like that. So I changed my attitude in my mid-20s because I
cool.
went out and I watched games, and some of these people were trying to make it to the next level, and some were just playing for their own reasons, and they wanted to play at the most competitive level they could.
Yeah.
So I have respect for that, but I can't watch the games with all the fakery and stuff like that. And,
it drives me crazy.
A rugby player about 2 years ago, and a guy from South Africa, Brian Habana. I don't know how he, like, record-breaking player, like most tries ever. I can't remember what his stats were. Much respect. He's over and playing in France because that's England and France is where you go to make all your money as a as long as you're not in an American sport, so soccer, rugby, those kinds of sports. He's over playing in France, and he kicks it over the top of some people, and someone puts a little bit of a shoulder into him, not enough to really do anything, and he dives.
In rugby?
Yeah. The blow up afterwards, he had apologized within like 2 hours on social media for like bringing the game into disrepute.
Oh my god. Well, yeah.
So
because you guys are tough as all get out.
Well, it's self-policing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I understand the reasons why people dive. Right. If you can get a penalty and it's a clutch penalty, your team might win.
Right.
But yeah, that's why I love hockey.
Oh, yeah.
There's a penalty.
Yeah.
For diving.
Yeah.
Like, hockey has some of the most unique rules. Like, there is no other sport apart from sports where you're fighting where there are penalties to say, we can't reward you for fighting, so we've got to sit you out for 5 minutes. But,
Well, and I will say the offside rule in hockey is way easier to understand than the offside rule in soccer.
Mm. Yeah.
Just to put that out there.
Yeah. With my experience from the under fives, my one season of soccer where I was the star player because I knew which way we were running for one game. I don't know the rules. Again, respect for all the skills and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've found it funny because like everybody, has started posting all these memes about the soccer and the referee abuse is the other thing that really, like you do that. That happened in Europe. It was a World Cup qualifier because the World Cup for rugby is next year. This team lost their minds. I think it was Spain, and the referee he was either crooked or had the worst game of his life.
Yeah.
The official ruling was worst game of his life, so he'll probably never referee a decent game again. But the team surrounded him, and like finger poking in the chest and those kinds of things that you see.
Wow.
You see in those soccer videos sometimes when things get out of control. And the other team came in and separated the team from the referee, and this referee had to run for it and stuff like that. I think it was 9 months and 12 months two players got for like putting a hand.
Yeah.
There wasn't shoving or anything.
Yeah.
Crazy or I've seen videos of referees getting like chased and punched and kicked and things like that in other sports.
Yeah.
But and if you're down in the lower leagues, like there's been the odd example I've seen around the world of someone punching a referee, life ban.
Oh, yeah.
Life ban. Like there's no second chances.
Yeah.
And this is down in the B leagues and things like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's right though. And
trust me, I have disagreed with referees my entire life.
Of course that's their job.
I don't bother arguing with them.
Yeah.
I seem to have this magical ability that in every sport I play, I find the team that loves to talk back to the referee and we get punished for it. But there's a respect for the referees, and there's a respect even if you don't like their decisions.
Yeah.
And I know this much. People have asked me, especially because I got the accent, people think I'm really good at rugby and know heaps about it.
Yeah.
I will never referee. It's a thankless task.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have the skill set to be a really good referee. I can't focus on 800 things like a referee, especially at the high levels, need to do. So,
oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Your ears are remarkably perfect for a rugby player.
Yep.
I will notice.
Well, as a guy who is 5'6", I am not. Let me not get technical here. I am not in those big pile-ups that rub everybody's ears off and things like that. I'm the guy standing behind, barking orders at all the giant people.
Yeah, right on.
And passing the ball away from the big guys to the pretty fast ones out the back. So yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, so because I'm totally ignorant, Australian rules football versus rugby. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff in Australian rules football that I've watched on the television. It is a violent game. What are your thoughts on the two? Are they similar? Are they radically different?
I mean, obviously there's similarities. Like Australia's weird because we have Aussie rules, rugby union, and there's a different rugby league that most people in North America have no idea about, and I'm not going to try and split the hairs between those two. But they're oval ball sports.
Right.
Yeah. America has NFL.
Ugh.
And nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rugby's actually growing there. But we split our fans. That's why New Zealand are champions of the world in rugby, because they play one sport.
Huh.
And if you're too skinny to play rugby, you go play cricket. But rugby is a religion in New Zealand. They have the best systems. They're the most professional.
Wow.
And the highest ideal is to make that All Blacks team. But in Australia, we split it amongst the three oval ball sports. Soccer is actually a huge grassroots sport, just like it is here. Like,
interesting.
I'm pretty sure soccer is the most played sport in Canada.
Short of hockey, but
it's
most accessible.
I think like participation-wise, when you
absolutely.
take kids and adults together, more people play soccer because you need boots and a
ball.
round ball.
Yeah.
So we split the fans and obviously the revenue for TV and stuff like that. So so they are very, very similar in some ways, but Aussie Rules is different because it's a kicking sport,
right?
And it's all about the catching and that competition. So it's violent from the fact that most of the impact happens in the air.
Yeah.
And when you hit someone in the air, you land on your head and
I've seen people like drop their cleats onto a buddy's hand or scrape the side of his face.
That sounds more rugby than Aussie Rules. But Aussie Rules is an aerial sport, and you'll notice everybody looks the same. Yeah. Everybody is 6 something.
Yeah. And
they can run. I think they run like 5 or 6 kilometers during that game. Whereas rugby is there's a shape and there's a position for every shape and size.
Oh, okay.
You got your fat blokes, you got your super tall blokes, you got guys like me who are short and skinny.
Yeah.
You got big fast guys. There's a position for everybody, and that's why it's good, especially sort of as a junior sport.
Yeah.
Is the little skinny kid will you often be the best tackler. I'm coaching the under 11, or not. I'm not coaching. I'm watching. I'm laughing at the coaches because I've all played with them or whatever. My girlfriend's son's playing rugby.
Yeah.
But it's the little kids, and actually we've got a good complement of girls in this team, and the girls are the best tacklers, and they're usually a bit smaller.
Yeah.
So it's the good thing about rugby is like, because we don't wear pads.
Yeah.
You have to get your technique right.
Yeah.
Or you don't last long.
Right.
So the girls and the little guys have the best technique. They're the best tacklers. It's the bigger people that are doing it badly because they don't have to get it right. Usually size will help them. But I don't know. That's a different. Rugby is a running and passing sport, and Aussie Rules is a kicking sport. Is how I would.
Well, that's good to have that differentiation. My dad used to play rugby a lot. I never did. We did in high school briefly, but that was it.
Now, was your dad back from the old the Isles, or
no? He's Canadian, little guy.
Okay, I only asked because you did refer to soccer as football.
Yeah, well,
it's not a North American thing to do normally.
But we're because I coached my kids growing up for a lot of years, and we ended up with a lot of ex-professional footballers from the UK come over and help coach.
Oh, cool.
And so it's just it's a thing, and it makes more sense to call it football.
Yep.
Because that's what it is. And don't send me letters. I don't like NFL. I don't like CFL. I'm not a Canadian or American football fan. I just don't like the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I have respect for it, but I don't like it. I love football. I love watching good football. I love playing good football. And I've watched some rugby, and I've probably watched more Aussie Rules than I have rugby, just because it was on more often.
Yeah, it's more accessible. The rules are pretty simple.
Yeah. Well, it really was, because the rugby rules, I was like, I got nothing.
Yeah, you should go watch Rugby Sevens.
Yeah.
Where there's only 7 guys, and it's less. Those big pile-ups that everybody's in, that's called a ruck or a scrum. Again, I'm not going to explain things.
Yeah, sure.
But Sevens is much faster. It's it's 7-minute halves.
Oh.
It's super fast and super entertaining. And Canada are way better at Sevens than they are the full sport. And
Interesting.
Canada's women's team have been in the top 3 for a long time.
Wow, go Canada.
Yeah, and it's Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, I think, in the women's that have generally been the top 3.
Wow.
So they are, and the women are pretty strong in the 15s as well. The men are sort of on a bit of a downward trend. It's been a bit tough watching the men's in the last little bit, but
that's too bad. We went and watched. We went up to Edmonton and watched the World Cup women's football, and it was some of the best we've ever seen. So much better than the men's. Sorry, guys, but no diving. It was a bloodbath. Women were coming out with gashes on their head, still going, not falling. No, they were all about putting the ball in the back of that net.
Yeah.
And they did it in the best, the passes were so pretty, and it was amazing. So I had huge respect for the women's football, and I'd love to go see women's rugby. Maybe I should go check that out.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's everything's centralized here. It's quite different to Australia and other countries that it's a higher ranked sport, so everything happens in one spot down at the Calgary Rugby Union. So you can go down any Saturday and find it, and it's amazing. They've gone from 10 years ago when I was here, they had 3 fields. Now they're up to 7 fields, and
wow.
I'm feeling my age because I'm transitioned from turning up at 2:00 to play first division at 3 to turning up at 10:00 to watch the juniors. But there's hundreds and hundreds of kids. There's so much participation. It's actually really cool. And luckily, all the old farts that I used to play with are now parents anyway, so I get to stand around and talk to them anyway, and have a beer afterwards and go watch a larger game. But it's small, but there's a pretty strong community and a competition here. But mainly the juniors is awesome. Really a growing sport.
Oh, I'm gonna go check that out. I love that. We're just coming up to the end of our time here, but I wanted to just ask you a quick question. What's on your bookshelf right now?
Oh, the bookshelf's a bit irrelevant. It's more like the 2 books on the one side of the couch. That's my filing cabinet, and then on the phone and things like that. What am I reading at the moment? I am reading a book. I'm forgetting the name, but it's basically about the science of willpower.
Oh, okay.
And it was a business contact, Vince Fowler, who's a business coach, and he's in that Facebook group we've mentioned a couple of times. But it's all about the science of it, and how the old lizard brain is kind of trying to short circuit the new part of our brain. But it's really good, whether it's in your personal life or more of a business sense.
Yeah.
For me, about why the shiny objects get you moving towards them and things like that. So I think it's great. I'll even look it up while I'm talking. But I've got that. I'm reading another book called At Your Service, which is a speaker friend of mine has just released a book on customer service, and he came through the trade show industry many years ago and just got to watch and learn a lot about that. So he wrote a book on customer service, and I've been going through that in pieces. But I'm a little schizophrenic on my books.
You got a couple going at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you read fiction?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the sci-fi fantasy.
Okay. Yeah.
And just to qualify fantasy, when I say that, I'm not talking about like romantic
Yeah,
I said that. I
want to say like orcs and like.
I said that. I don't know where I was. I was in some sort of networking event. No, it was a little group of like people who were thinking about writing books.
Yeah.
And I said fantasy, and this guy looked at me, and he's just like, "What a waste of time!" And I think he thought I was reading like 50 Shades of Grey or something like that. But more the magic and swords and stuff,
right? Yeah.
Stuff like
Gold dragons,
stuff like that. Yeah, so kind of the Lord of Rings thing. So I usually have something going like that, which is my switch off.
Did you read all the George R.R. Martin stuff?
Yeah, I'm one of those obnoxious people that read it like when he first
me too
first wrote them, and then the huge gap between books and things like that. But at least the TV series is getting on with things. Yeah. Whereas he's never going to finish that last book. Like I'm never gonna learn what the whole end's going to be. The book I mentioned is actually called The Willpower Instinct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll put a link to that in the description too. That sounds really good.
Yeah. I mean, the subtitle is like How Self-Control Works.
Oh, okay.
And it's just, we kind of just think that you've either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
And when you're not using good self-control, it's like, I got to be better.
Right.
Not that you can train it. So that's what's really interesting with this book is you can train it.
Cool.
Yeah. And if we didn't give in to the dumb stuff, how much more efficient or happy or whatever would we be? So I'm really enjoying it. It is a bit of a mix between there's the business side, but also the personal side, awesome. Personal development side. So quite enjoying that.
Cool. Well, so we covered a lot of ground. And thank you so much for coming down and sharing with me. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. I did not think I was going to have to talk about soccer. So good one for surprising me.
That's what I do. I do my research and just drop the ball.
I think hopefully I at least surprised you that I used to write about soccer for a newspaper.
What a fun thing to find out. David Burns, all the links are going to be below, unless you're listening on iTunes, in which case go to therebelrebelpodcast.com. That's where you're going to find all the stuff. David Burns, thank you so much.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Coming up next week, we've got David Schmeichel from Brand is Truth and the Gist podcast. He gives us insight on how he found his calling as a creative and what drives him to create and make a difference in the world. Oh, and what it's like to live every day like you mean it. Check out next week's episode, Rebel Rebel, every Monday.